Our regular meeting to order. If you'll join me with the beginning of the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Sue, do you want to do a roll call?
Certainly. Matt Cortade?
Here.
Matt Cook?
Here.
Mindy Walters?
Present.
Glenn Walters? I haven't said that in a long time. Glenn Lyle?
He's not present, but I am.
Well, maybe he is, but a much higher calling. Glenn Lyle? Sue Cortade, I am here. Beth Friend?
Here.
And Bartlett is absent and excused.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. We will look at the agenda. You'll notice that you have an updated agenda. What you have as the ambulance maintenance and cost repair is an item that has been placed on the consent agenda. That material is on your desk and includes the estimates for that. And then as well, the Land and Water Conservation Fund has been removed from the agenda, and that will now just, both of those grant applications be under the Natural Resources Trust Fund. And with that, you have the updated resolutions on your desk underneath the 3 Mile Trail map. So with that, are there any conflicts of interest declared? Okay, hearing no conflicts of interest, is there an approval of the agenda as stated? Okay. All right, motion by Lyle and supported by Walters to approve the agenda. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Motion passes. We'll move on to public comment. This is the opportunity for anybody in the public to come up and visit with us regarding any topic. Just introduce yourself and let us know your public comment. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to correspondence and reports. That is in your packet, and you can read those at your leisure. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Would you go over the consent agenda, please, Sue?
Certainly. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such request will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent agenda, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. And tonight, we have the motion, or the February 12th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes, and the January 29th, 2024 special meeting minutes. That should be February 29th, correct?
Yes.
So February 29th, 2024 special meeting minutes. We also have checks from the general fund, check number 18479 through 18550, 0 voided checks in the amount of $184,968.61. From the emergency fund, checks numbered 5552 through 5558, again, no voided checks, in the amount of $62,586.29. From the receiving fund, checks 2928 and 2929, no voided checks, $4,119.81. From the escrow fund, checks numbered 1994 through 1997, no voided checks, $5,368.48. And there were a number of payrolls. The first dated January 28, 2024 through February 10, 2024. Checks number 7607 through 7611, totaling $64,074.92, including payroll tax of $10,691.60 and estate of Michigan withholdings, check run 2/11/2024 through 2/24/2024, check numbers 7612 through 7617, totaling $65,242.03. Includes $10,908.30 in payroll tax and a check to the state of Michigan for withholdings. There are 2 election pays, the early voting inspector pay on 2/25/2024, checks number 7618 through 7646, totaling $11,956.87. And the presidential primary day inspector pay, which was on 2/27/2024, checks number 7647 through 7663, totaling $12,843.50, for a total payroll of $154,117.32. Total amount paid, $411,160.51. And for the other items, we do have the ambulance maintenance and repair cost and no budget adjustments.
Awesome. And the motion for that ambulance maintenance and repair cost would be to approve the Williams Honda Chevrolet estimate for $4,298.10 with a 10% variance if needed. So, is there anything that anybody would like removed off the consent agenda?
I'd like the ambulance maintenance repair moved off the consent.
Sure. We'll put that as item G. Okay. Anything else? Any items from the public removed from the consent agenda? Okay, we'll bring that back to the board. Is there a motion? I would move to approve the consent agenda as stated without the ambulance maintenance and repair cost. Is there support?
Support.
Motion is made by Friend and support by Walters. We'll do a roll call vote.
Friend.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
M. Cortate.
Yes.
Lyle.
No.
M. Cortate, aye, or S. Cortate, I say yes. Motion carries.
Okay, with that, we will move forward to the business before the Township Board. We have engineering topic, and Wade Trim and Garth Bogart is here with us from Wade Trim. And first on the agenda is the Arbutus Lake number 5 change order. And let's see, that begins on page 56 of your packet. Hi, Garth, how are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the change order.
Yeah, so this change order has been on the radar for a few months now, since probably mid-fall time period. It involves adding 2 charcoal grills, which are ADA compliant, to the project. We had not included those in the original plans, so that's the smaller ticket line item. We adjusted the concrete surfaces already to accommodate those if the board opts to keep them in the change order. So the site is ready for them, they just need to be ordered and installed. The second larger ticket item for this change order is reconstructing the parking lot. This has been a topic of discussion for a few months now, and we took that time to work on evaluating various drainage improvements that could potentially be made to the parking lot. Our conclusion at this point is that the majority of the stormwater that is deemed an issue with the parking lot is coming from East Arbutus Lake Road, and it's really a problem that needs to be addressed within the right-of-way rather than outside of the right-of-way. And so, speaking to the road commission on and off over the last few months, they've indicated that they would be interested and need to replace the culvert that facilitates the stream running under the road at that park. And we believe that waiting to make any drainage improvements until the road commission is ready to replace that culvert would be the best bang for both parties' buck. And that could be done because the road's going to get torn out when that culvert does get replaced, and shoulder work could get added into that project, which could potentially involve catch basins out at the mouth of the drive opening and or a raised edge along that side of the road. And that would allow us to put spillways in to control where the water is going onto the park site. The road commission believes that that project needs to happen sooner than later, but they have not yet given us a date on when it will happen. And based on this project needing to be closed out sooner than later due to the grant funding and it's a popular park, I think it's best move forward with the parking lot, just reconstructing it and making it compliant with the ADA parking grades that are necessary, and then keep pursuing the drainage and stormwater improvements alongside the road commission as a separate shared project, potentially shared project.
Yep, we definitely tried working very diligently with the road commission. They wanted to do the culvert this summer. They just weren't able to get that project off the ground. And then as well with the other drainage mitigation, they've had a lot of changing personnel there, and so it's been kind of difficult to get those collaborative projects going. But I think they will in the future. It's just the timing isn't working out for this project.
Question, does the road commission, are they saying that township has paid for part of that culvert?
No, not part of the culvert.
Not part of the culvert itself?
No.
Putting it in, that's all on theirs.
That would-
Anything within their right of way, they're paying for it, correct?
Yeah, that would be a road commission project.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion?
I guess I've got one more question.
Sure.
I see, so you've, in the change order document here, you've accommodated all the pricing that's mentioned in our packet, but you're also extending the project as well?
Yes, yep,
Because we're past the date, I'm guessing, right now?
correct.
Just due to, I know there were some challenges last year, numerous challenges, but we had a completion date of 10/20 last year, and now we're picking up another almost 200 days.
Yep.
I guess what's the thoughts on getting the project completed, if approved by this new date?
I think it's a feasible date. The main reason for the new May completion date would be because we can't predict when the asphalt plants are going to open up, and we can't guarantee that Arbutus is going to be the first project in line for those first batches of HMA.
And then as well, they'll be putting in the kayak launch that they didn't put in the fall. But the bathroom is done, the picnic tables are out, those things are completed over there.
Yeah, the occupancy permit has been, the certificate of occupancy has been issued for the bathroom. There's one minor line item that remains for the fishing pier, and that remains just because they couldn't do the work below the water line in time last fall before things got cold, so that will be an April item as well.
Okay.
And that's been discussed with the contractor in advance, so.
Are there any, without knowing kind of the day-to-day details of how the project is in terms of completion? I mean, I hear what you're saying, what some of these outstanding items are, but is there any possibility of, with a CO on the bathroom, is there any possibility of partially opening this if we get warm weather so people
Oh,
can
yeah.
use it?
Right now, we're just waiting, I think, on the key for the keyed locks and for those to be, the bathroom will be operational
Yeah, and
after
I
that.
spoke with the contractor on that late last week, and he was going to drop the key off sometime this week
Okay.
for the bathroom.
So we've got the security cameras in. We have to get the SIM card in over there. Other than that, those will be operational.
In your, I guess in what you've looked at here regarding the culvert topic and/or the paving, is there any risk to the township in the meantime until that culvert work gets done? Because you're saying they haven't committed to when it's going to be done. Is there any risk of, washout or rework of anything?
No, the parking lot is essentially going to be reconstructed exactly as it is right now, with the addition of the corner modifications that we included in the original project. So grades are not going to be changing out by the road, and we don't expect drainage patterns to change.
And it was mentioned that the Parks Commission has seen this and was aware of it. I believe it was in the fall of last year. And what we were trying to do, some of that time was we were trying very hard to work with the Road Commission to try to make all of the project happen at one time, but we haven't been able to. So with that, is there a motion to approve the Arbutus Lake Number 5 Park Improvement Project Change Order Number 2 for $39,186.50 for the grills, grill locations, and parking lot reconstruction?
Motion.
Okay, is there support? Motion, oh, sure. Motion is made by Walters and support by Lyle. Any further discussion? Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, just one last thing. Maybe I'm missing something here. Item number 2, under your change order description, says there's a substitution for line item 5 in the original contract documents. Does this $39,000 change accommodate that change? Is there a deduct track somewhere?
Yeah, so the 39,000 is above the deduct that was made for line item 9. So the total cost to reconstruct the parking lot, if line item 9 was not part of the original project, the total cost to reconstruct the parking lot that you would be looking at right now would be higher than what's shown.
Okay, so, all right. I'm sure Beth's checked that. I just wanted to ask.
It's right here, 43,000. Put my glasses back on, 522.50.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see it in there.
They didn't have very much that they were doing with the parking lot
Sure.
before.
Yeah, and that original line item 9 was for spot paving, basically, and
Yeah.
their cost per ton of HMA was astronomical in comparison to the cost per ton for the whole parking lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Sue, would you do a roll call vote?
Walters,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
M. Cortade,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
yes, Friend.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. We look forward to having that done. Thanks for your work on this. The next you have on the agenda is Jen's Park, and that begins on page,
65.
thank you, 65. Do you want to go over this, or?
Yeah, so we bid out Jen's Park on February 29th. There were 4 bidders, which was a great number of bidders for this last 5 years. The 3 out of the 4 bidders were all within $15,000 of each other, so it shows prices were pretty well vetted, and that none of the lowest 3 were doing any significant cost overruns. And the 4th bidder, they were a bit out above the rest of the field at $145,000. Bash was the low bidder for $82,970. They've done quite a bit of work in the township in the past, and we don't see any reason to withhold the award from them, from our perspective.
This project, as you'll remember, was in place and designed in 2019, permitted And I believe we even bid it at the time, if I
Correct.
remember. We were getting ready to do the project, and water levels came up rather quickly and impeded us from completing the project. So water levels are much further down now. Wade Trim has taken a look at it, made sure that, it's properly engineered for the site, and been in touch with Eagle, which this did not need a permit now, if I remember correctly. And would you go over some of the features?
Yeah, so the project revolves around a concrete pathway that goes from the existing parking lot out to the landward side of the beach sand out by the water. And then it splits off, and there's 2 picnic pads that are also cast in place concrete. And for each of the 2 picnic pads, there is a picnic table and an ADA compliant grill. And then the 2 pads are tied together with a concrete walkway as well. Then there's some other miscellaneous improvements. A couple of trees are getting installed. Bike racks, charcoal grills I already noted. There's some demolition included because there's currently a boardwalk out there, so that played a part in the project cost. Minor grading improvements, and then also notably, the parking lot is going to get seal coated, and there's a few places that they're going to do full depth paving repairs on that it appears as though roots have destroyed the parking lot in a few areas, so we would
So-
fix all that.
Just a couple things with this. First, let's see, the Parks Commission did take a look at also bidding it with permeable pavers. Those are not on the recommendation, just based on the fact that we've been in discussions with Wade Trim, and the maintenance issue with the permeable pavers on a sandy beachfront is a little unrealistic, and also does drive up the cost. Now, I will tell you too that I have talked with the chair of the Parks Commission regarding this. Their last motion, you can see, is under the description, and we did want to get this to the contractor as soon as possible to get it rolling and underway. So he and I agreed that we would bring this to the board because we're the ones who authorized the contract, and they had already approved the project to go out and for design, or for bid. The other item is, I did have, because we don't have public comment under this section, and we've already been through public comment, and we have had contact with one of the neighboring property owners who is concerned about the grills in the area as far as potential for fires due to that. These grills have always been in the project from 2019 through current. I personally was not concerned with that because I know that they're in front of the treed area on the concrete in a stabilized grill area. And we have had people who sometimes bring grills and put them on the, the boardwalk or the park table. And so I feel like this is a better option than that. However, based on the neighbor's comment, I did reach out to Brian Belcher, who is going to meet Dan Boersma and myself over at the park and review the prints and just make sure that he's good with that. So, and we'll take any recommendations that Brian mentions. So, yeah.
On the table on page 66, there's a section at the bottom that says highlighted in yellow is a math error, but there's nothing highlighted in yellow. Is that because it didn't apply to this table?
Yeah, that's just a standard note for this
Okay.
form, and we did not find any.
And then I'm curious why the charcoal grill, the ADA compliant, is $650 on this project and $1,600 on Arbutus.
The nature of the change order.
Probably, I don't even know if they're the same exact charcoal grill. We have them do a standard ADA grill, which there's not that many of them out there. Yeah, so, I don't know, we'll take a look into that, but I think it should be more probably of that 650 price range.
I think if you look at the other bidders' numbers for that grill as well, their numbers are a bit higher than the 650, so.
I'm concerned about that. I think that might be low. So I would say that, I would like to hear if Brian has a type of grill that he would prefer. I mean, ADA, of course, but, if there's one grill that's better than others, I would like to,
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Yeah.
understand that as well.
I think I've only seen like 2 types of ADA grills out there.
Well, there's quite the spread in these 4, and it's pretty interesting since that's a very specific line item.
And it's so much different than what we just passed for
Yeah.
Arbutus 5.
Well, at Arbutus too, weren't they doing some concrete work with that as well?
Yeah, but if you look at the email that we got on page 61 of the packet, the grill itself is 1,600 and the concrete is 36 square feet at $12 a yard
Okay.
at 432, so that didn't include the concrete in that total.
Okay.
Actually, somebody can't do the math here, because 1,600 plus 400 is not $1,632, so I don't know where the math there is there.
But is that where the correction was requested for the amount farther down the emails?
Yeah, if you look at my follow-on email to that, I corrected it to 2,032 each.
And you
Yeah,
said
so it
yes.
goes even high, yeah, so the 1,600 per grill is what they're bidding versus the 650. I'm just concerned that that's too low.
That may even be a typo on Bash's part, or whoever put the chart together.
Well, we will work with them and take a look at which grill they've spec'd out to. One of the things, I would have been happy to work with any one of those contractors, but in particular, we happen to know Bash well. They've worked on the water project on Hammond Road with us very well, so we'll be in contact with them about that.
Question.
Yeah,
I guess they held up on the project because of the water table, the high water. And that was when we had a wood deck down there.
Yep.
Now we're gonna go to concrete. Is that concrete deck gonna be high enough when the high water comes back? I mean, this is a cycle if you look at the history of it. I'm concerned that when we put it in, we put it up enough so that when the high water comes back, it doesn't undermine it and we end up having to put a new one in.
that was a question I had, and I think the Parks Commission had too. You can go ahead and field that, but I recall Brian saying it was built up to a certain level or something like that.
Yeah, it has been built up, not extreme in any measure, but it is higher than the current boardwalk, high enough to accommodate a reasonably high water level, but also the lower current water levels. Because maintaining ADA accessibility down that path is also a consideration we had to make. So if we build that up, somewhere there's got to be a drop-off to get to the beach and remain ADA compliant. So having designed it, I think this is a happy medium. And given that it's concrete, I think it's going to hold up fairly well.
But he's not guaranteeing anything.
I'd had a hat.
Any further questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract to Bash Excavating for $82,970 plus or minus what is needed to cover the ADA compliant grill as approved by
Brian Belcher.
Brian Belcher.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Walters and support by Escortade. We'll do a roll call vote.
Walters?
Yes.
As Cortate, I say yes. Lyle?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
M. Cortate?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate your work on this one, too. Okay, with that, we will, I don't think we have anybody here from the road commission tonight, but we'll go through, this is pretty standard, the county road improvement agreement for Brine. You have in front of you for 2024. You'll see their match is still that 50-50 split. And they have included the agreement itself, which hasn't really changed, and the road maps with the location and the listing. So it says in the budget implications, as noted in the agreement, the amounts are based on the 2024 bid and are close approximations of cost to be incurred. Although I will say they typically charge exactly what they have estimated. So let's see, you can see the past amounts for the applications. And that our line item budget for road projects, brine and special assessment districts, which we can amend, but right now is at $65,000. Holiday Woods has been approved. They did go out for bid on that and receive the bid. And 10% of that will not exceed the approved amount, which was almost $43,000. It'll be more likely at that $38,966.71. So that leaves about $26,000 in the line item budget for other SADs, which we didn't factor in. If we do another one, we just have to amend, or the brine. So we do have funds in there for the brine. And there has been some talk, we've talked about it in the past since they've gone to this Liquidow. The continual application of Liquidow stays in the system much better than the mineral brine that they were using previously and built up over time. As a matter of fact, when they're doing gravel road projects now, they actually put that brine within the gravel, the Liquidow within the gravel, and apply it there. So some townships, I believe it was Long Lake, felt that, I think it was last year, they had seen enough of an improvement that they just did one application and were fine with that. So upon hearing that at a meeting this spring, I have two motions for your consideration, and either one was absolutely fine. One would be to approve the road improvement agreement for brine application with one application with administrative approval for a second brine application if needed. And that would be based on the feedback that we hear from people who live on those roads and what the road commission suggests that they're seeing based on their application and the feedback that they're getting as well. The second would be to approve the 2024 agreement with brine application with two applications estimated at the same amount, and that's what we have done in the past. I was just thinking, well, we might want to give some accommodation for seeing how we're doing this year. We've been on Liquidow now 3 years, 4 years? Third year. So,
Yes, my question, if I can. We do have several SAD projects that are currently being circulated in the works for gravel roads right now. If those residents do secure enough signatures that we move forward, if we approve two brines and they have a construction going on in the middle or right after we do a second brine, that does concern me a bit. So I would lean more towards one brining and always knowing that we can do a second one if we need to, but not have them both approved at this point.
yeah, and if their gravel road project were to go this year, that does have a line item in it for the brine application. So, yeah, exactly. And if they would think to, if the timing were that the application went in and then they didn't need to do that within the 10,000 and some, they would just back that road
I would
out.
expect so too, but I
Yeah.
think if we kind of hold that driver's seat a little bit to say one right now, and then we'll see where we're at.
Sure.
I would be more comfortable.
Yeah.
That's your motion?
That would be my motion. You want to support it?
So then you're going for the option one.
Option one.
Okay. And so that motion is made by Escortate and supported by Lyle. Further discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? All right, very good, thank you. With that, we will move on to the Michigan DNR grant applications, and we have Claire Carner here, who's been working on the 3 Mile Trail, as well as TART, Julie Clark, their director, and Elizabeth Calcutt. If you ladies want to come up and visit with us. As you'll see, we had a grant application resolution on here for the Natural Resources Trust Fund and one for the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And the Land and Water Conservation Fund has been withdrawn and replaced by a second DNR trust fund resolution. Those resolutions are now in your packet behind the map. And so I'll let you ladies kind of explain, I know you've been on the phone and interacting with the grant coordinator and so forth, which is excellent. So why don't you bring us up to speed?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'll just give a quick overview, and then I'll turn it over to Tart. So as you know, this is expensive projects. We've been looking at a number of different funding sources to try to get it all together in one phase, because the hope is to get the Safe Routes to School portion constructed in 2025, and then have the 3 Mile Trail follow in ideally 2026. So the end of February, the TAP application was submitted, and so now we're looking to submit 2 trust fund applications for an April 1st deadline. And so we had originally put 1 trust fund application and 1, what is the name of it? Land and Water Conservation Fund application in. That one, when Elizabeth and I met with the grant coordinator today, the township would actually have to own that property as opposed to an easement on it. So that would not be a good candidate for that. All of the trail right-of-way, the township plans to take over easement, and so those will be coming back to you. But the actual property would still be retained by the property owner. So that's why we're looking at the trust fund grant option. The grant coordinator actually encouraged us to apply for more than 1 trust fund, and so that's the reason that we're going down this route. And so I'll let Elizabeth and Julie talk in a little bit more detail, but you'll see in the resolution in front of you, we're looking at doing it in 2 different trail segments, and working with Carl Ferguson to kind of figure out how to maximize the points, and so.
All right. Well, Elizabeth Calcutt has really been working closely with Claire on numbers, so I know these are just presented to you this evening for consumption. As we've been going along, as you are aware, there was a TAP application, so that's the MDOT dollars that was put towards this project as well. Road Commission applied for that in February, so that's another funding source. We are trying to put all the pieces of grant puzzle making together. That's what we do with townships. And the trust fund has been a really important partner on nearly every trail project that we have in this county, whether it was Boardman Lake Loop, trust fund. Obviously, East Bay is well acquainted with the trust fund and has been very successful in your applications. Acme, Township, Garfield, all have secured several trust fund grants for their projects. So tonight before you have an opportunity, and it feels pretty rare when a grant officer tells you apply for more. So when they do, that's what we do. And so we did swap out essentially LWCF for trust fund based on their advice. And so that's what's before you. It's really part of the funding puzzle to put it all together. It will be public-private. TART, again, has funding that we are seeking to be able to provide matching, as well as the transportation dollars and an appropriation that we were able to secure. So tonight is really just one more piece of a funding puzzle. So it's not the end. I'd say this is a good halfway through point, and we'll know more in October as we get reviews back and more information back from both TAP and Trust Fund.
Okay, very good. I will say, such appreciation to the DNR Trust Fund and their staff, because their grant coordinator is extremely helpful and has helped guide us through a lot with that. And so, yeah, a lot of trust in what they say. It's no guarantee, obviously, but they certainly are helpful in trying to strategize with the township and the applicants. Any questions for Claire or Julie or Elizabeth? Okay, is there a motion? And do we know what resolution number we would start
I was
on?
looking back through our packets. I believe 2024-04
4?
is the next one.
Okay. So the first resolution that is on here, that is for segment 1, would be Resolution 2024-4. Is there a motion for that resolution?
And just to confirm, segment 1 is the one on the second page under the resolved by, number 3, that 1,027,314.
Correct, and it is on orange on the map.
Yep, and it includes the parking lot trailhead as well.
I just wanted to make sure I had the correct resolution to go with this, so.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-04, Segment 1, a resolution in support of the 2024 Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application.
And we will put segment 1. Oh, no, we don't need a segment on there, never mind, sorry. I just wanted to avoid the confusion of a duplication. Go ahead.
That's why I added Segment 1 and I put it in front.
Okay, okay, very good. Support, okay, motion is made by Walters and supported by Cook. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Walters,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Lyle,
Yes.
I vote yes. Cortade,
No.
Friend.
Yes. Okay, Resolution 2024-5 would be the next resolution that would be for segment 2.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-05, Segment 2, a resolution in support of a 2024 Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application.
Is there support? Motion by Walters and supported by Cook. Further discussion? Roll call vote?
Walters,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
I vote yes. Cortade,
No.
Lyle,
Yes.
Friend.
Yes. Very good. Thank you for your hard work on this. Appreciate it.
Forward to keep coming back here, share updates, and hopefully more good news. So thank you for the step forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the Recreation Passport Grant. And with that, the Parks Commission has been working on a new addition to the Grace McDonald Park, and that is cornhole games. These are those games that you see that a lot of people have, that have the boards that have, sport teams on them, or college, universities, whatever. But they're easy to play, and yet go all the way up to having professional tournaments. As a matter of fact, I recall seeing in the Record Eagle that we have a professional cornhole player who I believe resides in East Bay Township, so very interesting.
He lives on my street.
Ah, I thought he lived over in that area, okay. So with that, they're looking at taking an underutilized part of Grace McDonald Park and placing some cornhole games in there. They do have it broken into, they had some landscape architects design it through Wade Trim, looking at putting those in, 6 games, but they've broken it into 2 phases, and they started to look at, do we just pay to have one in, do we do grants or whatever? They decided to go after grants and put the whole thing in if they can get the grant. If they cannot do grants, they'll pull back, reconsider, and then maybe look at just putting in one of the 2 games and leave the other 4 for a second phase. So with that, you'll see their consideration. You have the print. They just went over this the other day, and the estimate. And if the grant is awarded, the township would be responsible for a 30% match on this grant, which the Parks Commission is currently budgeted in that amount for improvements in Grace McDonald and would be able to cover the match. So this would be a request for an action for approval of Resolution 2024 was that 6? Authorizing the passport grant application. Any questions on this?
It just seems really expensive. I mean,
It does,
I
doesn't
understand
it?
Their costs are up, I don't deny that, but
Yeah.
it just seems huge.
It does seem very expensive. I will say, one of the things that they're doing that they talked about, and they are committed to doing this, they didn't want to take it out, which would have saved money, is they're running with a sidewalk along that side of the parking that goes all the way in front of the tennis court and the pickleball court to improve the ADA accessibility there. So that drives cost up a little bit, and then, of course, that sidewalk continues in to make it, just circuitous route through there. It has a small concrete picnic pad there where they'll be able to put some chairs in, or tables in there rather, for viewing, people who are playing, and then the courts themselves. The cornhole games themselves are concrete, so they're not at risk of being stolen. I mean, unless you bring in a forklift and want to do that. And then there's a design around it for the area that is, what do you call it, like when you have a tournament, you have prescribed things you must use, you must have a certain area you stand in to throw or whatever. So it has that concrete area on either side defined, and then in front and back, because when you throw the cornhole bag, you don't want to get it dusty and dirty and all of that. So they've minimized the concrete, but then kept it where it was important for the play to be enjoyable.
So users would still need to bring their toss bags.
They would, unless the Parks Commission chooses to do something else, which who knows, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they see if they put a bucket of them out there, maybe they don't tend to walk away, or maybe it's just not, So, Glenn?
Okay, when I read this, and maybe you kind of answered it there, but the cornhole platforms and everything, is that going to be concrete, or are they,
Yeah.
and where the bag hits and goes into the hole, that's concrete also? Okay, what are the two, and that's what I thought, and then I read down, it said, the set of two boards, cornhole boards, for $1,500 a piece. I'm just wondering what that was.
The cornhole boards themselves, so it's the board itself is a concrete piece.
But it's made out of concrete, it's not,
It's like a precast concrete, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's number 13,
Yeah.
item 13.
yeah.
So you're getting 5 sets of 2, a total of 10, is the way it reads.
I think 6, there's 4 on the bottom and 2 on the top.
Well, it says set of 2, and then over here it says 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, it
And
only
there's 6
says
in the
2.
drawing.
That's, well, the cornhole boards, this is phase 1.
Oh, you're right, it does too, if you line it up. 5's below it.
$1,500 for a total cost of $3,000. It's not saying 12.
I wonder if they did not. Everything else looks accurate, but
Would there be spots in here where people could bring their own if they have a
yes.
favorite?
Mm-hmm,
So
yep.
Our kids all have their own sets that they
Yep.
cherish.
Yep. And that may, well, no, they should, for the full thing, this should have 6 sets
Yeah, there's 6
of the concrete.
Well, if you look at the drawing, it says option 1, concrete cornhole courts with mix of exposed aggregate concrete and broom finish. Where alternative 2 is, and I don't know what the difference between option 1 and option 2 is.
Oh, Dark is
So-
still here, is he?
Oh, Garth, did you go over this with the landscape architects? I don't think you did, though, did you?
Unfortunately, I am out of the loop on this project.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you're
No,
still here.
That's why I'm here. I figured some form of a question might come up. So I'm happy to take any questions you guys have and relay them back to the team that worked on it.
So I think, remember too, it's not like we're approving a bid or approving an amount here. It is the grant amount we're requesting, although that does impact it. We can certainly bump that up. The one thing that I see is that the two sets. So at 1,500 for 2 sets, we would just want to take that times 3 for 6.
I'm thinking that this quote is just for option 1. But then it says 6-game site plan on the top, so.
It looks like it's option 1 for 6 games.
Option
But option 1 is only 2 games.
Option 1 is only 2 games. I think it probably just didn't get transferred over.
What is?
Well, option 2 was alternative court.
Yeah, so when is this grant application due by?
April 1st.
So
Yeah.
you're looking at 4 boards, which would be concrete, and that was my concern because I'd seen the park up there that's got the cornhole and they're stationary, you don't move them. And nobody's gonna walk off with them and the weather isn't gonna destroy them. And that was my concern.
Yeah.
When I seen the boards, I thought,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and so this is really a difference of, if that is correct and they didn't adjust the number of sets there, that's a difference of $6,000. So we can adjust the resolution by $6,000.
So you'd take 13, and instead of it being a total cost for construction of 3,000, you'd make it 9,000?
For the boards, yes.
That's one that is currently listed as 3,000.
Yep, and this has to be 2, because this includes the irrigation, the seeded, and so forth.
Yeah, because it's got 6 benches. So,
Yeah, so I think if we were just to adjust that up by 6,000, which would then be, we would do an application for 148 and another 6. So we're looking at 154, 413, 25. And then we would just do a 30% match, and I would put that amount in for the 30% match.
and that's coming out of their budget, out of the Parks Commission.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that they're trying to find more ways for the public to utilize the parks. I do like that.
Yeah, and this is a really great little project because, I mean, think about it, all ages can play this, all abilities can play this. As I said, it could be a quick, easy afternoon game of 2 kids in the park. It could also be a tournament. So,
The fact that the concrete walkway is part of this bid, it's not just the cornhole section.
yep, helps improve that walkability, or the ADA accessibility, and that's one of their goals in their rec plan, too.
Right.
That was going to be my question. Is this cornhole board project part of the most recent rec plan? It is, okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. They've been looking at it for a little while.
I didn't
As a
remember.
matter of fact, I had the okay to go ahead and order the boards, but then I was looking at the ground and I was like, I think we better do some more looking into this, like how we want to place them and so forth. And so went back to them and they approved Wade Trim then taking a look and designing it.
Has anybody, I don't know, as part of the survey, do we have any kind of idea of what level of interest there is in this? I mean, I play cornhole, when I'm socially
Yeah.
at a pub or something,
Yeah.
tailgating, but, I mean, when I go to Grace McDonald with the kids in the summertime, the pickleball courts are full, slam full, so they're getting plenty of use. I'm just wondering how often you'll go up there and see the same thing happen on the corn? I mean, is there a cornhole group? Are people going to organize
There's-
tournaments?
I'll
or-
just tell you that all I hear all summer long is thud, 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 thud. Because there's a whole group, at least in my neighborhood, that's playing every night that it's
And it's not my kids.
It is not your,
Somebody else.
it is not your kids. Again, I do have the pro on my street, but it's not him that's even playing.
And, Sarah Capriva could speak better to that, as whether it was part of the survey. I don't recall, and the Parks and Rec plan, I just simply don't recall. But this was something that they had wanted to do, authorize the Wade Trim contract to design it, and took a look at how they wanted to pay for it, and the passport grant is something that we thought might work well with this one.
Is there any accommodation for lighting in case people want to play after it gets dark?
Well, it's a dawn to dusk park, so,
Okay.
and we stay pretty light in the summertime, pretty late.
Yeah.
It is interesting how times change, because that originally was the horseshoe courts.
Well, and the thing with the horseshoe courts was, like you were saying, people had to bring their horseshoes because they didn't, and nobody really carries horseshoes. They're kind of klutzy and heavy to carry. Plus, they had a stake sticking up in the middle of this area. And I was looking at it, I'm like, someone's going to impale themselves on that thing because you barely see it. And it's out in the middle there, nothing to define it. It just didn't make much sense. This seems to kind of fill that same need, but maybe a little bit more updated, a little more contemporary, and easier to bring your own bags if needed. So, yeah.
Or is the township going to accommodate bags? Are we going to have any available?
They haven't really decided that, the Parks Commission. I think that, I'm not sure that they've totally decided that. I think, they have talked about, I remember talking about with them, that's a lot easier to carry around than horseshoes. People could keep them in their glove box or whatnot. But maybe they'll find that they can get a good price on some, keep them in a bucket there, and maybe try it once, keep track of how long it lasts. And if it works, then maybe do that. And if it doesn't, and they just disappear right after, one after the other, then forget it and just have it as one where you bring your own bag.
Do they,
BYOB in a different meaning.
do they supply any pickleball paddles or anything for people?
I don't think so.
I think you're gonna get in a conflict regardless. If you do it for one, you'll do it for the other. If not, don't do it.
I'm wondering if those paddles aren't a little bit like tennis rackets where people like their certain kind,
This could be the same way.
Yeah, could be.
Well, bags depend on
Maybe.
the weather and the moisture content in the air, depends on what is in the
If
bags.
they're cherry pits or
Yeah,
something
they can be
different.
pretty expensive.
Well, I was talking to my neighbor, and he was telling me all kinds of things that I never knew about how sophisticated these bags actually are.
Any sport or recreation you get into when people take it to
They're
a,
pretty pricey
yeah.
when they get into the.
Why are you
high
laughing at
stuff
me?
With bags and stuff.
For a layman like me with a cold beer, I can throw a bag of, cracked corn. It doesn't matter.
There you go.
I'm telling you,
about as
I
good as
had
And that's-
no
that's
idea.
what this really does offer opportunities to span the skills, and it offers intergenerational opportunities too for, things that grandparents can do with grandkids, that sort of thing. So that's nice.
One last thing real quick, and, we're talking about all the sophistication of the game. In the interest of the design, has anybody, reached out to a professional or a group, or, I'm guessing there's.
So the landscape architect who was part of the 2 landscape architect design team actually plays and does tournaments himself.
Okay.
And he used to live in the area. Didn't Scott used to live in the area?
Yeah, he lived in Traverse City for at least 10 years. I think.
They actually had come up with 2 options on this, and one, they were turned a different way, but he went with presenting this one to the Parks Commission because it creates a more tournament-type atmosphere look in the way that it's kind of designed, so, yeah, but very good question. This would be resolution, is this 7?
6.
6 still.
Really? Okay.
We've
So-
been talking about it for a while, so we discussed what number it was earlier in the conversation.
Okay. Resolution 2024-6, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion
Approve
to approve Resolution 2024-6, a resolution supporting and authorizing a 2024 recreational passport grant program application, changing the bottom of the resolved to authorize a program application of $107,888.05 with a 30% match of $46,234.30 for a total project of $154,114.35.
$413.25. Is it 113?
We said $154,114.35.
Thought you were adding 9,000 onto it straight. Or 6,000 onto it straight. So it wouldn't change the dollars and the cents. So the bottom number should be, you work off that one.
Yeah, I follow you. I don't know what I did.
Well, there's the one that ends in 413, the main one, and there's an alternate deduct for 407. I don't know if that's got crossed up or not.
And you can approve the resolution with a total cost of $154,413.25 with a 30% match and leave it at that, and we can go back and do the math.
Sounds good.
Okay. Is there support?
I support it.
Okay, motion by Walters, support by Lyle. Further discussion? Do a roll call vote?
Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Tim Cortade.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
I vote yes. Friend.
Yes. Okay, with that, we, thank you very much, Garth. Thanks for sticking around, appreciate it.
Not hanging around, are you?
With that, we're going to move on to the Food Security Incubator. We have CEDM Fellow Sam LaSouza here with us, who's going to go over the application guidelines and rules for that.
Hi, guys. So we, at our last meeting, approved the grant agreement with CEDM to implement the farmers market, which was pretty exciting. And so now I'm coming to you guys with all of the documents associated with running both of those things. So I've got the farmers market documents as well as the community garden. The farmers markets were done and the community garden documents were done in collaboration with the parks commissioners, as well as I referenced local farmers markets from the area to look at what their guidelines were, and using the Michigan Farmers Market Association as well as a resource to kind of make sure that we were covered. And so the applications are both very, very similar to kind of keep a form that's consistent for this kind of overall food security incubator program that we're kind of getting started here at the township. I'm happy to answer any questions on anything in particular for these documents that you guys may have seen that you would like to discuss. And then the other thing that we are asking from you guys is to look to have someone that would be an advisory committee member. This would be just whoever would be liking to volunteer to contribute from the Board of Trustees. We have a Parks Commission member. Corey Layton has agreed to volunteer for this position from them. And then the Planning Commission also has Rhonda Wassam has agreed to also contribute her time to this. So we'd be looking for a member of one of you guys to advise on that. And then we'll also have two at-large members that will be appointed later. Those would hopefully be a farmer so that we get that perspective, and then a resident. They could also be a farmer as well, but trying to get a few residents' perspective as well. And then yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to go through any of the documents if you guys had any questions on anything that you saw.
Tracy Bartlett was the member that we had placed before. The reason we had Tracy there is because she's going to be accepting payments from the market vendors, and so we thought that that would be a good fit. And my assumption is that she'd be willing to serve in that capacity again, since they haven't really had to do anything yet so far. But there'll be some coordination with payments and also some of the special programs.
Yeah, so they would, the role would be to approve the participants for the farmer's market, looking at like market mix, making sure that we have a diversity of products available to our residents, making sure that we're privileging East Bay farmers in our selection process, that kind of stuff. A lot of that is outlined in these documents, kind of letting people know who can vend and what to expect with that process. They would also be approving the participants for the community garden once that is built. So that would be probably next year would be when we'd be looking at that being kind of selection process kicking off. So you'd have kind of the bookends of the year that would be busier, but as long as there aren't any issues during the season, you wouldn't really be expected to meet. I'm thinking probably quarterly if you miss the one in the summertime because they don't, you don't have any issues and the farmer's market's running perfectly, then that could be, it's kind of like the zoning board of appeals. If there isn't an issue, you wouldn't meet. Yes.
So on page 97 of our packet, which if you don't have the packet, it's in the guidelines and rules for the farmer's market, number 10. It talks about a monthly meeting. So I just want to make sure that, because that's not what you just stated or what we talked about at the planning commission level.
That is not, that must be a typo. I apologize. And I actually, one update that did happen as of today is the schedules on these have updated to reflect voting. So taking into account voting days and not having the market operate during some of the voting windows. Sue and I discussed that today, and so those have been adjusted just to make sure that we aren't having all these things happen at the township hall all at once. And then the community garden would be closed on those voting days.
So I was just wondering if you're going to schedule a monthly meeting so that if there is a problem, there's already a date for that meeting scheduled.
And then if it doesn't.
And then if
need
it
to
doesn't,
happen.
you're canceling it instead of having it scheduled quarterly and having an issue and not having any time.
Another meeting until 3 months from now, yeah. I
When
think
it's-
that it would probably be the first option you suggested, where it is scheduled out, but you are really meeting to approve the participants and then do kind of a year-end review and then meet as needed in the middle. You're not doing a lot in the winter because there isn't a market or a garden to deal with at that point.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because this did specifically state monthly and that's not what I've heard twice now. So I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same page. I think it's a good idea to schedule it because then you can always cancel it a lot easier than scheduling something different.
We can have them too, as a standing committee, pass their dates in advance, as we do with a lot of the other boards. Because they'll typically know the months that they'll need to meet.
Yes.
I appreciate Sam bringing that up because that was a very valid concern. And so thank you for taking my suggestion seriously and removing election days.
Although you never know, voter participation might have gone up.
Parking and usability of the space are.
I'm just joking.
And, well, I'm just going to say it. I just appreciate that we're going to work around that. So.
On the schedule, which, by the way, you put a lot of effort into this, I can tell. There's a lot of work that's been put into this plan, so good job.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 87, the schedule. You've got the application period opening tomorrow and ending on April 1st, gives you a few weeks. I'm guessing you've got a pretty good handle on maybe the interest in this. Is that enough time that you think you'll be able to fill all those slots by then?
Yes. And let me make sure I'm on the same page as you.
Well, you're already receiving emails. I forwarded.
Yes,
one to you.
we have already received interest. I guess I can answer that question without looking that one up. But I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing you are. So, yes, the idea would be that the application would go live tomorrow as a pending approval from you guys, and that we would have an April 1st deadline, yes, for the, I think that that'll be enough time. We'll also reach out to, we had a ticker article written about the farmer's market already. I think reaching back out to Beth Milligan and asking her if she'd be willing to like do another little blurb about how the application is open. I think that was the way we received the most positive feedback, was having that go out to the community. And we had, I think, well, I had one voicemail when I got here at 7 a.m., but that didn't surprise me because they're farmers and they get up early. So we already had one farmer that I know from the Sarah Hardy that was expressed interest, and then throughout that day, we had 5 or 6 other people reach out in various ways. So, and that's just East Bay Township specific, but I know that people are excited about it elsewhere as well.
Are you or anybody else doing any kind of active recruiting of food trucks, vendors that y'all know?
I have a list going, that's a lot of the vendors that are at the Sarah Hardy that I know of
Okay.
already, that I'll be sending out the notification to, and then East Bay Township specific farmers that I have talked to that are still either working or interested, or they'll also get an email notification that the application is live. Otherwise, we'll put it out on the township website and other various ways of trying to get the messaging out there.
Question, the city has a farmer's market and has had for years.
Mm-hmm.
Do they allow wine selling, and do they allow CBD products in
So-
their farmer's market?
Per the rules, yes. When I reference the Sarah Hardy market rules, they do allow for it. I think the challenge with the wine is that somebody has to be under 5,000 gallons a year. And so they have to be a very, very small wine producer, and I just don't know of if anybody has expressed interest. I haven't heard in my couple years there of anybody applying as a wine vendor, but they could. And then, yes, we do have a few CBD vendors over there. None of it is smokable or consumable, so it's bath products, you know, things like that, ointments, lotions, various other things, nothing ingestible.
Well, the township did approve a liquor license for a home brewer several years ago.
I don't remember that.
I'm trying to remember, over, I think it was Glen,
Like Aaron Glenn or something.
Aaron Glen. I don't know if they are still in production.
Beer and alcohol have a different classification and get way more complicated. So the wine vendors specifically are allowed to vend and sample, but you wouldn't be able to have beer and liquor without an actual license. And then the market would have to, I believe, hold the license. It just gets complicated as you get further out, so.
Right, because the
For right now,
Yeah, the township itself does not have any available licenses. We haven't for a while.
yeah.
Someone would have to purchase one and bring it in.
And I think
or-
the farmer's market would probably have to become its own entity then in order to do, and that, yeah, it makes
Sounds like it
it
gets
way
complicated.
complicated.
And then their insurance would have to cover the liability. It wouldn't be township liability.
Yes, the wine vendors will have to have all of their own licensure and insurance to show up to our market, and they will have to prove that per the rules, that they are correctly following all of the rules,
And that would be part of
their
the,
application. We would.
managers.
Yeah, the market manager would follow up to request those documents if we ever got an application. But yeah, like I said, we haven't had anyone, but I guess it's not a night market, so maybe at a night market, there'll be more interest. I mean, I don't know many people that are sampling wine at 8 a.m. at a farmer's market, so, but at, 6
But it's
o'clock in the
5 o'clock.
afternoon, it might be a different story, so.
Yeah, I think the hours were 4 to 7, correct?
3 to 7.
3 to 7 on Thursday.
As early as noon.
Yep. They usually take about a couple hours to set up, so you want to make sure that they have some time to.
So has there been any thought to what staff will be doing for parking? Because typically, we park in the spot that you're going to be using as vendor space.
So by noon, we would need everybody to kind of shift to
Just park in
to
the front. Other questions?
I had a question about the advisory committee status at volunteer paid committee. I just kind of want to know what the two sides are, because If I figured it out right, if you had all 39 vendors, all spots, at $15 a piece, you got $585, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. And if we're gonna start paying people, I wanna make sure this is, and that's if you got all the vendors.
Well,
That's my concern.
I agree with you, because we've had other subcommittees, other committees that have been volunteer without any compensation. If you're going to start compensating one, you should compensate them all.
Exactly.
Yeah, this isn't, I mean, we can do however we want to, but this isn't a subcommittee, so to speak. It's more of a standing committee, because we know we're going to always need one. We can definitely make them, under the umbrella of either the Parks Commission or the Township Board,
But then you have
either.
citizens at large. They don't fall under either of those things. But the tree subcommittee wasn't a paid committee,
Yeah,
and
there's,
those were citizens.
and we weren't on zoning ordinance.
Right,
Um,
but that wasn't citizens, that was different members of the commissions and boards.
Yeah.
I don't,
The
it's
tree
irrelevant.
was some residents, and some board members. And so we can choose to do whatever we want with this. Personally, I don't think that any of the people who are looking at being involved really care that much one way or another if they're compensated or not. So I think it's just, what does this board want to do with respect to subcommittees and committees and compensation for those?
I can remember a long time ago when I ran a AAU volleyball organization, and the fellow that I had worked with from Muskegon always said, you pay them, they're not volunteers. If you pay them, you can remove them. If they're a volunteer, they're there forever.
Well, and that is something too, the Township Board has the authority too, as well, to tier some payments. Like Planning Commission is what? I don't know what it is anymore,
$2 a meeting,
how much?
142,
142.
change.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that for another committee.
Be like a under 4-hour border review, which is 91 and change.
Yeah, or it could be something else too. So we can come back and determine that. See, maybe we'll have a little bit more information on looking at the calendar, how many times they might be meeting, that sort of thing.
Maybe a suggestion would be that we just make sure that they're a volunteer committee to start with, and then if we're gonna look at paying, then we need to take a look at all of them we got so that it's fair to everybody.
Yeah,
I would agree.
that sounds fine.
Okay.
So the first, there's a couple motions actually down here. The first of all, was there any other questions?
Yes.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Under mission, it says that the market is operated by East Bay Charter Township. I kind of thought this was more of a Parks Commission project. Why wouldn't it be under the Parks Commission? Just saying.
That it certainly can be, as well as I mentioned, the committee could be under the umbrella of the Township Board or the Parks Commission. So very similar type of arrangement.
So I personally, that's what I'd like to see it be, but whatever.
What page was that on, Matt?
It's right on page 87,
Are you talking about the mission?
and it starts right out, number 1 mission, the first line. And it's referenced.
Oh, is operated by East Bay Charter Township?
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's more of just kind of a global statement. The Parks Commission is as well, the township. This isn't associated, say, with Tattle or something like that. Was more the intent with the beginning of that statement in number 1. Was it referenced further as well?
Well, there's a couple different places it mentions the township. I may not have marked them all.
So would it be appropriate to say operate, the East Bay Corners Farmers Market, the market, is operated by the East Bay Charter Township Park Commission as part of East Bay Charter Township?
Again, I'm not sure if you want something that's operated on a monthly basis and dealt with vendors on a common practice to be with a board that doesn't meet with super regularly. I mean, I think it would probably be better if it.
I know, I'm going to say this one more time. They are a duly elected board. And
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
really- They should have power to do what they need to do. And if it's their project, they should be able to oversee it.
But, you know, the thing goes back to is, do they have the ability to oversee personnel? Because you're talking about a market manager, and that's where it becomes a little tougher.
No, you read the book, and it states right in there, as a duly elected board, they're no different than we are with their powers. And the only reason they come here is that we are the financial source for their projects. So, anyway, I don't really care. The only other thing I did catch is on page 92, it references the DDA staff. Yeah, I think that's just a typo.
Definitely a typo.
Yeah, just so you can correct that. And my other concern is it lists the bathrooms in the north. I really think if from the farm market, when the farm market is open, obviously when the township hall is open, they're open, but when you close the township hall down, I don't think those bathrooms should be available to the public. There's a few things down there, you know. There's the front desk with phones and computers on it that could be messed with, and a few other things, so.
Can't get in there. You shut down the.
Doors in the
Uh-huh.
door.
You can always utilize the south side here.
Yeah.
And that's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
And there will be a market manager on site, so I think that it's reasonable to have bathroom facilities for people.
I had marked them on here just because the market will straddle some of our operational hours, so at some points, that door will be open. So if you
Yes.
parked right there, you'd still be able to access the township hall, but
Right.
then at a certain point, that side could close down, and we just operate out of this side of the building. The market manager, I believe, is proposed to be just right outside here, so they'd have views all directions of the market.
Right, so it would make sense. I mean, the south one with the kitchen and the two bathrooms, and then the secured door, so they couldn't get into the areas where equipment may be accessible when no one else is here.
We could just not reference which restrooms, and we'll do, you know, based on which staff is here, what time it is, and so forth.
I mean, if the office is open, it would make sense that both bathrooms would be available, but on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or after 5:30, I would expect that the north room would be not available.
Oh, yeah, and this is just for the farmer's market. The community garden, you would only be able to use the township hall when the township hall's open. If you're here at dawn and nobody's here on a Saturday, then I guess you're going over to the gas station, I don't know.
The library.
Yeah, the
or-
library, yeah.
Yeah.
I got another question. What about electrical?
For the farmer's market? So, most of the vendors will have to provide whatever their own electrical needs would be. We're not allowing generators, so because of noise and the clutter that can provide. So at this point, we're not investing in infrastructure for electrical, but if we have a big interest from food trucks and need to invest in that later, that's something we can look at. But the food trucks can park here and utilize some power coming off of the building so that it doesn't cross the sidewalk area and the pedestrian area, and you're not having cords running everywhere and things like that. But that would involve, I think, more infrastructural
Well,
improvements.
the problem that I foresee, if we supply electricity, because normally you'd have to have spiders out there, and you're talking big, because those food trucks, those heaters, you know, they use for the food and stuff, those draw quite a bit. My suggestion would be that we don't allow any hookup, because somebody could hook up, you could have 2 or 3 hooked up, you could trip a breaker or whatever. And it's just gonna, I think it's gonna cause more problems than do good, and at $15, that wouldn't even cover the electrical.
Yeah.
I know that, I don't know, the city has electrical?
We do not.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't provide any electrical down at the Sarah Hardy to our vendors, and we still have a very full market with lots of
Well, I
participation,
would say
so
we don't supply
I
any.
agree with you.
I mean, my suggestion would be, as a craft vendor, if we want electric, we have to pay for electric hookup. That would be something to look at down the road, but we would have to have the infrastructure to withstand it.
Yeah, well,
But
we
I
used,
would, I would agree with you that it should not be
at
offered
the
at this
resort,
point.
we always sold electrical to the trade shows, and of course, they're a lot bigger than what we're gonna have here, but you
Right.
still need equipment that needs to be hooked up by a licensed contractor, and, I mean, it just gets.
We'll see, this is just, in its infancy, and we'll see what the interest is from vendors and what their needs are. And then if we had to forego many vendors because of the lack of electricity, then we can talk with the electrical subcontractor that we use and see what the solution might be that would be reasonable and would facilitate the needs of
But
what
it
they're
would be
expressing.
reasonable to incur an additional cost if they wish to do that. I mean, I believe most vendors are
Yeah,
used to that.
we used to do that at the craft show.
Right.
Okay. With that, we'll make some of those marginal changes, the typos, the mention of the bathrooms, those types of things. But with that, we go back to the 3 motions. We have a motion to approve with changes to the application and guidelines and rules for the community garden and farmers market. Is there an action that we want to take on that first?
I would make a motion to approve with the amended changes, the application and guidelines and rules for the community garden and farmers market.
Okay, is there support? Okay, motion by Escortate and support by Cook. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no?
No.
Okay, let the record show that M. Corte dissents. We'll move forward to the next motion, which is to establish a Food Security Incubator Advisory Committee as a standing volunteer committee with a composition of 1 Parks Commissioner, 1 Planning Commissioner, 1 Township Board Member, and 2 citizens at large, with a term of 2 years beginning January 1st of odd-numbered years.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there support?
I'll support it, but I have a question.
Sure.
It's an even numbered year, what are we doing?
Oh, that's okay, because we'll just appoint them and then end it whenever it goes. I just did it the same as Board of Review, so we could do them all at once.
Okay.
Motion by Cook, support by Walters. Further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no? Okay. Was there a motion to appoint a board member?
I'll make a motion to appoint Tracy Bartlett, Township Board Member, Rhonda Wasserman, Planning Commission, and Corey Layton, Parks Commission, to serve on the Food Security Incubator Advisory Committee.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Walters, support by Cook. Further discussion?
I can't support it when somebody's not here to make that decision, and it's the way it is.
That's what we usually do on committees, is when they're not here, we give them the most work. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed by no?
No.
Okay, show that the record shows that M. Corte dissents. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your work on this, Sam,
Thanks, guys.
very much. Okay, Beach District banners permitting. Okay, with that, Claire Carner and Sam LaSousa have been working on this. You have 2 agreements in front of you with consumers and with Traverse City Light and Power, and so I'll let you take it away, Claire.
Okay. So this is.
Did we skip the fee schedule update?
Oh, fee schedule. Sorry about that. All right.
I thought I needed to go back
The
over there for a
banners, the
second.
banners is the fun one, but we can,
Your name's on this one
They're
too,
all
Sam.
fun, Claire, come on.
Well, let's go to the fee
The
schedule.
fee schedule is really just reflecting what you just approved for farmer's market and community garden. And then the other just small change is that our legal counsel told us that we should not be including the master plan amendment as a application, because we actually had someone apply for a master plan amendment, and it was not ideal. We wanted a master plan to be initiated by the planning commission. Somebody can certainly initiate a rezoning request that may be contingent on revisiting the master plan, but the master plan revisiting should be initiated by the planning commission. So that's the only change that we're making based on our legal counsel. Sam, do you have anything to add on the fee schedule?
I don't think so, yeah. It reflects what's in the rules and guidelines that you guys saw before you for kind of fee structure for that. And includes all of the booth fees. The community garden isn't quite in there yet because we haven't built it yet, so.
Okay, with that, I believe this would be Resolution 7, correct? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-7, which is an update to the fiscal year 2024 cost of permits, application fees, licenses, and initial escrow?
Make that motion.
Okay, motion is
Support.
made by Walters and supported by Cook. We'll do a roll call vote.
Walters,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Lyle, and Cortate.
Yes.
I vote yes. Friend.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
I will say that we will be coming back to you probably with more changes, more substantial changes for the fee schedule after the full zoning ordinance rewrite. We're going to be taking a pretty close look at all of the fees, and there'll probably be some new fees and some adjustments and stuff like that.
Okay, very good, thank you. We are duly warned. With that, we'll move on to the Beach District banners permitting.
Okay, so this is the more exciting one compared with the fee schedule. So the banners is something that we've been talking about, I think, since at least 2020. And I think, as we've mentioned before, it was really initiated by the business owners, and kind of through our kind of trying to reach out to the business owners, find out what the township can do to support, especially during the pandemic. And so what was articulated to us was low-hanging fruit. They're looking for an identity for the corridor, some marketing, some branding. So we have retained Flight Path Creative, and they're doing the directory, both a print directory and a web-based directory, and the banners. And the banners are going to be the first thing that's going in along the corridor. We're looking at an April date for installation. That's going to be, I think, good timing, one, because it hits before the busy season, so when the truck's out there putting the banners in. And also, we are planning to do the big public engagement design charrette in May, so we'll have them up for that. So I think it'll be nice timing. We have been working, so Flight Path Creative is going to be meeting with our implementation team on Thursday to just kind of go over some preliminary designs for the banners, get some feedback. That implementation team includes business owners, other corridor stakeholders and partners. And Sam has been working very closely with, so we, as you know, we have multiple different agencies that need to permit. We have MDOT, we have consumers, we have TC Light and Power, all of the plethora of different poles. But we have identified the poles that we're looking to install the banners on. Included in this are the agreements for the attachment agreements, and we have also reached out to the DDA just to better understand kind of how this program is implemented. So the DDA has a couple different banner programs, but these banners, Britain is going to be putting these banners, we'll be printing, installing the banners. They will do the maintenance. We have a contingency fund built into our grant so that it sounds like it's not very frequent, but if there is any issue with banners needing to be replaced, repaired, any maintenance issues, there is a, not a huge fee, but there is a fee for that, and we have that contingency built in, and Britain goes out and actually takes care of that. It also sounds like a lot of these banners are built to be basically 365 days a year, so we're looking at having these banners up for, and did you confirm with them? So we're looking to have these banners up for basically 2 years straight. So we're going to print a few extra banners so that they can be switched out if there's any issues with, brackets breaking or wear and tear. We won't keep banners up that don't look, presentable, neat, high quality. But it sounds like they do work well. And so we're looking at having this be a pilot program where they're up for a couple of years. In the future, maybe we would switch them out and feature certain nonprofits, different, parks along the corridor, destinations along the corridor. But for now, we're really looking to brand and kind of have that singular identity along the corridor. We also had legal counsel review it. And so Peter Wendling took a look at the pole attachment agreement, and so.
Yeah, you covered most things. The only other thing I wanted to mention was that we're working with a pedestrian-focused orientation for these banners. So the risk of them getting damaged by like a large truck driving by is almost zero, because they're going to be, occasionally some of the poles fall on the business side of the sidewalk. Those would orient towards the pedestrian sidewalk. Sometimes they're just right up against the road, and then there's the sidewalk on the other side. They would kind of adjust to follow more of a pedestrian orientation as we're trying to make the corridor more walkable and working on kind of implementing some of those human-scaled features to the corridor.
So you will be able to see them from your vehicle?
Yes.
They will be, get out and walk, you can see them even better.
Great. Questions for Claire or for Sam?
You said Peter reviewed this, I'm sure it's fine, but there's a insurance requirement. We have to carry insurance on this. It's not on, this says for a specific policy covered under the township, not on township property, so for consumers.
What page is that on, Sam?
120 of the packet.
Peter didn't mention the insurance. He just wanted to make sure that we had, Sam has put together a map, and so it clearly shows the locations of the poles, and so that there's clear understanding between both parties of.
I'm assuming that these insurance terms are probably covered under our standard policy, but they probably have to be notified.
Yeah, I'll get it to,
To Paul Olson.
thank you, yes. His name escaped me. To Paul, and I will tell you that they are really good to work with, because almost everything that we've contacted Paul about, and I think that we did contact Paul at the onset of this, because didn't I have you email him with him?
I would have to look.
Our plan risk management group.
Paul Olson.
I know I contacted him about Beach District things, but I think it was for Harbor Hall reservation, not
Okay.
this.
Okay.
I may have.
We'll have to look back and see, but I'll get in touch with Paul Olson regarding it, for sure. Other questions?
I think just a little history. Who come up with the name Beach District?
So the Beach District, that name was developed through the Grand Traverse County Planning Department, led a visioning effort back in 2017, 2018. They, through stakeholder engagement, had identified the beach district, and one of the actions was branding the beach district. So we did take that, we went back to the business owners that we were working with in 2020, just to say, you want to be the Miracle Mile Beach District. There was support at that time for Beach District.
It just seems a little vanilla, but when you mentioned Miracle Mile, that's what it was called forever. And there used to be a little slogan that they used to have something, and just paraphrase it, the Miracle Mile where hardly a pebble could be found, or something like that. Well, my mother used to clean motel rooms, and she says, well, that's because every kid on the beach must pick up the pebbles and bring it back to the rooms. So anyway, just curious. And on the banners, they're going to be up high, kind of like they do in the city, and so, okay.
as high up as we can put them while still having clearance for the power lines. I believe they're at 15 feet off the ground typically.
Yeah, that'd be good distance, I would think, yeah.
Yeah, Sam's very familiar with the corridor now. He's been walking it and looking at, and knows about every pole out there.
Verifying them, finding their heights, all of the things. It's great.
So with that, we are,
One more question. real
yeah,
quick.
sure, go ahead.
What is I see, maybe I missed the details in here. I see things they're talking about attachment fees with the consumers one. Do we know what those fees are? Do they have a fee schedule?
I have not seen that yet. I apologize. I can find out more about that.
Well, it gets into, I guess, on page 119, it gets into some specifics about paying a fee on a 30-day, every 30 days, and for every attachment bigger than 12 inches of usable space on the pole, there's an additional fee for every additional 12 inches. I don't know. So you may want to look into that.
Consumers doubled their fees just recently, maybe a couple months, 6 months ago.
Okay,
But I don't think that they are,
okay.
they reached out to us and told us to get our permit applications in before they raised their fees, but we just weren't ready to do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other questions? Is there a motion to approve the Consumers Energy Pole Attachment Agreement and the Traverse City Light and Power Agreement regarding banners, signs, and decoration attachments?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion is made by Walters and support by M. Cortade, did I? Okay. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? Motion passes. Thank you for your work on that. Appreciate it. Okay, with that, we are on item G, which is the ambulance maintenance and repairs. And this is information that Nick called me on Friday, and the 2012 ambulance went in for recall and some other general maintenance and have a few things checked. And you'll see a list of what they looked over and what was recommended. So questions on this?
I guess my biggest question is, why did this come to the board? Do we not just,
If this is over the amount, then the amount for to approve is pretty low. We actually need to amend the purchasing policy to get to an amount that's more reasonable. That's probably a policy that's probably 10 years or more old.
Well, with the cost of everything else, it makes sense to
Yeah.
increase that.
And we do, as mentioned here, we have $11,000 in the budget specifically for this, so we're good to go.
That $11,000, are you referring to this specific asset? Or just
The 11,000, that's what's budgeted
for
ma-
just this truck, this one ambulance? Or is
No.
that the whole maintenance budget?
That's the
for
whole
fleet?
maintenance and repair.
Okay.
Yep. And what we do to come up with that is we look at the past year's worth, but remember, historically, our ambulance is pretty new, having the number of ambulances that we have. So we do the best that we can in budgeting that. I do recall sometime within the past 4 years, there was one year when it just hit really high. We just couldn't wait to get done with that year because I think it might have been 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And last year was a pretty decent year with it. So hopefully, but definitely encourage, and they do keep the maintenance logs and get the routine maintenance done and so forth. But with this one being at $90,000, 90,000 miles, it is expected, and agreed. It's expected that some of these things, like the brake flush and so forth, would need to be done.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve the Williams Honda Chevrolet estimate for $4,298.10 with a 10% variance to do the repairs on the 2012 ambulance.
Okay, motion is made by Escortate and supported by Lyle. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by no? Very good, appreciate that. We come to the second public comment. This is the opportunity so the public can come up and introduce themselves and give us their perspective. Is there any public comment at this time? Hi Josh, how are you doing? Would you introduce yourself, please?
Josh Whipple, multiple property owner in East Bay Township. And just some quick comments in reference to Jen's Park. Thank you for expressing my concerns and reaching out to Chief Belcher. One of the, as part of that, one of my concerns is how you're planning on dealing with the ash from these two barbecue pits. If it goes into the sand, it doesn't come back out. Hot ash usually gets thrown into the woods. And we have a huge problem with Jen's Park right now with the amount of drug use that's happening in Jen's Park. And I just want to make sure that that's addressed. The other issue that we're having with Jen's Park that has been very aggressive over the last 2 years is dog owners. Jen's Park is listed as a no-dog facility on the signs. However, the dog owners come down and they unleash their dogs and they let them run up and down the beach. And this is concerning for all the guests, because if we have a dog strike, it's going to be a big problem. Especially if there's a dog owner that has a Great Dane and an Irish Wolfhound. And those are gigantic dogs. And they bring them out, put them in the water, and take their leashes off. So I don't know what the plan is with Jen's Park in reference to the dog situation, but I know North Shore Inn has had problems. I know I've had problems. I know Points North has had problems. So those are my concerns as of right now. I just wanted to make sure I expressed it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, any further public comment? Okay.
Just to,
Sure.
as an information, I didn't have time to create a clerk's report, but I did want to just make mention that candidate packets are available for anyone that wishes to run the township's 7-member Board of Trustees and 7-member Park Commission is a position that shows up on the August and November ballot. So those packets are available to be picked up in the clerk's office. An appointment isn't required, but it is suggested that you make contact with my office to make sure we're available so you don't make a missed trip. That filing deadline is Tuesday, April 23rd by 4 p.m., but make sure to file earlier in case you need to collect more signatures, so you'd have time to do that. And just as a quick overview, I know Mindy gave one at the Planning Commission. For a relatively small election, from other persons' standpoints, East Bay Township had a strong turnout of 30%. So I don't know that all jurisdictions can say that, but I'm proud that East Bay did show up and cast their vote. So, and we are already working on August and November.
Okay.
So, thank you for allowing me that time.
Sure, very good, thank you. Okay, with that, our next upcoming meeting date is April, we've already passed public comment, I'm so sorry. Actually, you were somewhat making it during public comment, please come up. I was thinking we were already past that agenda item.
It's the public
We did
comment
kind
since I
of,
wasn't
yeah.
under
but-
reports.
How are you? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Tanya Werfel is, multiple property owner, East Bay Township. With regard to Jones Park, a couple things. I didn't see on the site plan a photo. Are you changing any lighting than what's currently there? I didn't see any lighting study on the plan that you just did. So that's a question. This goes back to Josh's comment about the activities that are taking place in Jones Park. We would love to have it lit as much as possible, and I think we have moved forward on that a little bit more than was in the past. That is a concern for us in that park. So I didn't see it in the plan as far as any photos, as far as illumination study that's always required. But if that's something that's going to change or maybe be better illuminated, it would mean a safer situation down there on the beach. and I'm all for dark sky. That's not what I'm not asking to change that at all. It's just, can be pretty sketchy. So that's all, so, thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, our meeting date for April, I don't have that date right in front of me. Does anyone else?
I can tell you in a moment.
April 8th, thank you very much. So our next meeting is April 8th, and if there are no further objections, then we stand adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody. Drive safely.
That's the solar